You're listening to the Better for America podcast, presented by AMAC, the Association of Mature American Citizens.
Hello, everyone. I'm Rebecca Weber, and this is your AMAC podcast, Better for America. With me today is Andy Mangione, and he'll be with us in just a few short moments to speak to you all about what AMAC has done in the first 6 months of 2021. We're so excited. We're growing, and we need more members in order to really elevate and increase our voice in Washington, D.C., folks. There's a lot that we're working on, but what I want to share with you right now are maybe the top 4 issues that we are supremely focused on. Andy will share with you a number of issues that we've been working on that we're focused on, and there's so much that you can do. You can join AMAC. You can become an AMAC Action chapter leader or delegate. There's so much you can do to help save the America that we love. But I want to share with you these major issues. It's important that you understand who we represent and why we're here today. One of the major issues that we're facing here in America is the indoctrination of our children in our school systems. Now, you all might be thinking, if AMAC is a 50-plus organization, why are you focused on critical race theory? And the reason is simple. We polled you, our AMAC members, and overwhelmingly, our members told us that they wanted AMAC to focus on critical race theory and stopping critical race theory in our school systems. I thought that that was such a wise and bold, really move on our members to choose that, because they understand that the future of our country and the future generations here in America are at risk. So let me explain quickly the top 4 issues, and then I'm going to bring Andy Mangione in to discuss with you everything that we've done and what we intend on doing from now until the rest of the year. Folks, critical race theory is really a racist approach to dividing Americans. It fundamentally contradicts a belief in the American dream shared by everyone, from our founders and Abraham Lincoln to Martin Luther King and Ronald Reagan. Critical race theory, also known as CRT, it's really a substitute for Marxist objectives. Now, Marxism is the political and economical theory of Karl Marx and was later developed by their followers to form the basis for the theory and practice of communism. CRT simply replaces static economic classes with static races, in effect arguing that upward mobility, which is the ability to achieve regardless of your circumstances because you put your mind to it, is impossible, is what CRT says. But AMAC recognizes that this is contradicted by our historic and unending American quest for the realization of ideals, which are in our Constitution, our Bill of Rights, and our founding documents. All of those documents protect our individual liberty and equal opportunity for all men and women of every race. CRT is also contradicted by hard data that demonstrates America is objectively the strongest global magnet for people of all races, creeds, and ethnic backgrounds, and we long have been. In short, CRT is a sham, an attempt to replace belief in the promise and ideals of America. It divides America and divides Americans, and it forcibly dismisses the American dream with a socialist or communist solution. You see, folks, we are one nation under God, indivisible. But not only is America not systemically racist, it is the most systematically anti-racist country in history. CRT, critical race theory, also teaches resentment rather than equality among individuals. We are all equal in God's eyes. CRT is the antithesis of teachings by Dr. Martin Luther King, when he said, "I have a dream." That was a speech where he affirmed, "I look to the day when people will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character." CRT is a leftist divide and conquer strategy, and it should be disavowed by any thoughtful, idealistic, historically attentive, freedom-loving American. We'll play with you 2 clips from guests who appeared on AMAC's previous podcasts. Both Carol Swain, a political scientist, an author, and political commentator whose life living was in direct opposition to critical race theory. She's proof that critical race theory is a sham. And another clip clip from Byron Donalds. Byron Donalds, he's a congressman. He represents South Florida's 19th district. So here you can listen to those two clips to hear what they have to say about CRT.
These ideas are ideas that are nothing but indoctrination. They're not based on data. Critical race theory is a theory. It's not a fact. It doesn't stand up to research principles that have been standard, the scientific method. And it's all about emotions and feelings. And when it comes to teachers who read, books like Kendi's book, I mean, they would have to suspend their brain and thinking to go along with it, because he says that we should discriminate against people. And he believes that white people should be discriminated against. And our nation has values and principles. We know, how to treat other human beings. And so the very idea that whether you're a teacher or a pastor or just a regular person that has no particular role, you're just going about your life, those ideas are wrong. They don't make sense. And that we need to stand up and push back against it.
The problem is that critical race theory is a subjective viewpoint of looking at American history and American law. It is not objective, it is subjective. And so the argument today is, well, if you don't believe in critical race theory, you don't believe in teaching history. And that's not true, because history is objective. History is what it is. You cannot change it. I think my position is teach all of history. Like, don't sugarcoat anything, teach all of it. But where we must stop is where you make subjective arguments and subjective positions based upon how your view of history using race as the lens. And that subjectivity should not be taught in our schools. It should not be in our military. The federal government should not be dispensing funds to support the subjectivity of critical race theory.
In addition to critical race theory, AMAC opposes the open border policy, which is implemented by the Biden administration. And they're holding strong, keeping our borders open. Folks, AMAC believes in rule of law, which means sanctity of the U.S. border and citizenship and legal immigration, regulated by needs of the nation, not by politics, but by the ebb and flow of legally enforced numbers of foreign entrants into the United States. This is the opposite of open borders or non-enforcement of U.S. immigration laws. I mean, illegal immigration is exactly what it sounds like. It's illegal crossing of the U.S. border, which is a violation of U.S. laws to acquire the benefits in a country that you have not legally entered. An illegal alien is a foreign alien citizen who has illegally entered the United States. And folks, we have to realize that language does matter, and both terms are accurate. They reflect U.S. law. They reflect the facts. Illegal immigration has a significant adverse public health and safety effect on American citizens, respect for rule of law, and sanctity of our borders. The message that the Biden administration is sending is that laws don't matter, inside or outside the country. Crime, health, education, accountability, use of tax dollars, voting integrity, respect for law, and election are all undermined by permitting illegal immigration. Now, legal immigration, really culminating in naturalized citizenship in a nation with 40 million naturalized Americans, is a strength of America. And we believe firmly in that value and the goodness of our national mission, which is indeed, it's with the law, inclusive. Our Statue of Liberty, look at it. It welcomes legal immigrants. Folks, AMAC is going to fight hard to make sure that our borders are secure. In the end, illegal immigration undermines the ideal of legal immigration. I want you to listen to the dangers that illegal immigration causes from Sarah Carter, who was with us in the past, and Debbie Lesko. You're going to hear right now from these two ladies about the massive, dangerous effects of illegal immigration.
We need to put up a wall The wall is important. I know people don't understand this completely all the time. A wall allows our law enforcement officials to focus on particular areas of the border because it stops the flow of traffic in areas that had seen high concentrations of traffic. This isn't just about people. This is about contraband, drugs, smuggling of anything. I mean, we don't even know what it is. And
Sure.
now we're getting fentanyl into our country. These blue Mexican pills that could actually kill someone when they take it right away. A lot of young people think it's Oxycontin.
Sure.
They imagine
You
it's
don't know
something
what you're
else.
taking.
Right.
President Biden and Kamala Harris and the Democrats' policies on the border are causing this problem. It's
Thank
a
you for saying
humanitarian
that.
problem. Humanitarian problem for the illegal immigrants. Women are getting raped, girls are getting raped, people are getting trafficked at the hands of cartels. It's an economic problem for Americans because they're taking away American jobs. It's an economic problem because we have illegal immigrants that we have to pay for in hospitals and in our schools.
Folks, you might also be asking yourself, is America racist? After all, if we want secure borders and we don't want the teaching of CRT, you might be scratching your head. Folks, America is not racist. While humanity is forever drawn to difference, comparison, or prejudice of skin color, unfortunately, there are prejudices there. America is profoundly anti-racist. We are the most anti-racist nation in the history of humanity and on the planet. Not only does our Constitution and Bill of Rights, with the 13th, 14th, and 19th, and other amendments directly oppose racism, pledging our nation to equality before the law, equal rights, treatment, and an opportunity to thrive, but we fought a civil war in which hundreds of thousands of white Americans died to free Black Americans. We integrated our armed forces in 1948. We have pushed anti-discrimination laws at every level of government and society, from education to employment. Have we forgotten? The data also, folks, is overwhelming. We are not only not systemically racist, but we are systemically anti-racist. Folks, upward mobility, equality of opportunity for all, it is our mantra. It is America's goal. It is America's mission, with respect for God-given individual gifts and liberties. Notably, no country on earth gets more minority immigrants year on year than America. No country offers more assurances of equal opportunity. Did you know that more than a quarter of all millionaires in America are minorities, with millions working at high-paying jobs, sending children to the best educational institutions in public and private leadership, from cabinet rank, president and vice president, from business tycoons to leadership posts in every single discipline? Have we forgotten? Folks, while racism is a human failing, America is resolved by law, our temperament, our history, and our personal conviction to oppose racism. We are, as a whole, the most systematically anti-racist nation in history, resolved without excuse to equal opportunity for all. Two more topics, folks, that I just want to hit on quickly. Election integrity. Our entire democratic process, public trust in institutions embodied in our Constitution, and trust in those from generation to generation as civic leaders depends, we all do depend on election integrity. AMAC is a strong defender of the Constitution and the vital importance of assuring at every level of government, from school boards, sheriffs, mayors, governors, Congress, and the president, in election integrity, which requires identity, transparency, institutional integrity, and oversight. State laws assuring higher levels of transparency, integrity, and oversight are timely and arguably vital at this moment in American history. Reducing potential fraud by requiring voter IDs, by opposing ballot harvesting, opposing mail-in ballots without reason, out of precinct voting, online registration for underage and felon voters, DMV and school registration, which may permit non-citizen voting. We understand that those are all valuable, but we respect and abide by the U.S. Supreme Court rulings in 2021, which declared various state reforms to elevate trust in the electoral process as constitutional. We need to make sure that our elections are free, fair, transparent. No American citizen should ever support reduced access, voter suppression, or any other measure that diminishes respect for the electoral process. But efforts to malign voter integrity are equally wrong. They are terrible. Election integrity is central to trust in the election process, on which all else rests in our democracy. Folks, we are finally fighting hard for your rights. Take, for example, our First Amendment right. It is first for a reason. It assures freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, and free exercise of religion, and no establishment of a national religion. In short, the First Amendment is at the heart of all that America is, has been, and will be. AMAC is a firm defender of this amendment, which is increasingly under fire from those aiming to prevent. There are people out there really truly aiming to prevent, to cancel you, to punish you, to intimidate you. Essentially, what they want to do is intimidate the individual American from exercising freedom of speech and assembly and worship. These are not incidental or negotiable rights. This is a direct codification of what we call natural law, and were at the time that our founders met to secure and preserve them for all time. And no president, Congress, governor, mayor, city council, school board, or other government entity can take from the individual these rights. So AMAC will work tirelessly to defend these foundational rights on which so much depends. Folks, lastly, faith and religion. AMAC is a determined defender of the individual right of all Americans to practice their faith and to enjoy the constitutionally protected right to free exercise of your religion and to live by the moral and religious dictates, guideposts, and faith that our conscience permits. AMAC membership is open to all, but as a matter of practice, the majority of our membership tends to be constitutionally aligned with and holds values in line with Christian, Judeo, or Judeo-Christian values. We understand that our moral compass, our country's moral compass, has long been vital for the country and for our nation's Christian founders who believed that the hand of providence made possible the country's founding and survival. And folks, that is so important. It's so important. Most of our leaders throughout our history, especially those who governed during times of crisis, they understood. Folks like Lincoln, Teddy Roosevelt, Kennedy, FDR, Carter, Reagan, George H.W. Bush, George W. Bush, Donald Trump. Folks, these folks understood what their faith meant in conflict of time. So faith is highly respected here at AMAC. Folks, in short, AMAC strongly opposes critical race theory. We believe in law and order and the importance of a strong southern border. We will fight for higher levels of transparency and integrity and oversight of our elections, and we will work tirelessly to defend our foundational rights, such as your First Amendment right, assuring your freedom of speech and free exercise of religion. Folks, with me here today to talk more about what we're doing along these areas and many others is our very own Andy Mangione. Andy is our Executive Vice President of AMAC Action, and he leads the charge as we roll up our sleeves and go to work each and every day to help save and preserve the America that we love. Andy, thank you so much for being with me today.
My pleasure, Rebecca.
That's great. I think you heard my passion, and I had made some bullet points, which I was reading off of, and I can't tell you how passionate I am about the issues that you and your team every single day are fighting for. It really gives me strength every morning and excitement to come into work each and every day. So I want to turn this whole interview over to you, Andy. I received last week, I had the opportunity finally to read last week your entire report. Folks can find it on our website. Go to amacaction.org or amac.us and search for the AMAC Action, Advocacy, and Mid-Year Report. And that's what I really want to talk to you about here today, Andy. So help us dive right into the report and tell us what we've done.
I'm happy to do that, Rebecca. I just think it's important to start this conversation out with the fact that AMAC Action is the advocacy affiliate of AMAC. We take our marching orders from our members. When it comes to our legislative portfolio, our members dictate that. We don't sit in a room and decide what we're going to support, what we're not going to support. This all comes from the membership. And if we dial this back to the year 2007, and the initial founding by the late Dan Weber, why he started AMAC, he wanted to look at making Social Security solvent for future generations. He was very concerned about the national debt, and these concerns are well-founded when we fast forward 14 years. Okay, so what we have here is an organization, an advocacy group that's made up of AMAC Action employees, as well as our grassroots advocacy. So it's been a crazy year. It's been a crazy couple of years. We are still at the forefront of fighting for the solvency of Social Security. We are still at the forefront of fighting for lowering drug costs and lowering the national debt. But our members, and you mentioned this in your monologue, our members have forced, and I say that in a polite way, a few additional issues into our legislative portfolio. And that does include critical race theory. It does include election integrity, and it includes elder abuse and fraud. So we're dealing with those issues as well. In the span of since January 20th, when Joe Biden was inaugurated as president, we have been extremely busy. Let's start with election integrity first. Our members have been a huge asset to our efforts to defeat the For the People Act. This is on the national level. This was the federal takeover of elections. And I know that people that are viewing this podcast have read extensively what we've written. And we've written extensively on how horrible this act was, how horrible the bill was. The intent was to remove the states from the equation of monitoring and administering their elections on a federal level. And it was a bad bill to begin with. We opposed it instantly, and we worked with organizations, other conservative organizations like the Independent Women's Vote, the Honest Elections Project, the Institute for Free Speech, the Election Transparency Initiative. We all worked together, but what AMAC brought to the table was hundreds of thousands of advocates within our membership to contact their member of Congress, to contact their senators, to tell them how bad this bill was. I will tell you, I'm not exaggerating by any stretch. Our membership deserves a huge assist in the defeat of the For the People Act. Over 200,000 emails, more so, okay, were sent to members of the Senate. Let me paint a picture for you. In May, when the For the People Act went to the Senate Rules Committee, we were on a conference call with other election integrity leaders, and somebody on that call said, I wish we could let the Republicans that are the 9 Republicans know that are on this committee of our disdain for the For the People Act. I said, we could do that. And within a span of about 12 hours, AMAC members sent 25,000 emails each to those 9 Republican members of the Senate Rules Committee, telling them what a bad bill this was, telling them to fight for them. Ultimately, we were successful. The bill did not make it out of committee. Okay, we had a huge influence there, to the point where I was watching a Fox News broadcast the night before the Rules Committee took this up. Ted Cruz, who's on the Rules Committee, was being interviewed, and he used language that was taken right from one of our messages in the interview on Fox News. So we know our messages were getting through to these senators. They stuck up for us. They used our language when they voted against the For the People Act. Now, Majority Leader Schumer used a procedural move to get the bill to a vote. But I will tell you, our members had a huge part in defeating this bill in the committee and ultimately defeating the bill overall when it did come to a floor vote. That was on a national level. You mentioned election integrity, Rebecca. We also recognized early on that this fight was going to take place at the state level. Now, and there was some scrambling involved, admittedly. AMAC Action is set up to advocate on the federal level, but we knew right away that the battle for election integrity was going to take place in states like Georgia, Pennsylvania, states like Michigan, Kentucky, states like Florida. And we had to scramble, and we did. And the first thing that we did do was turn to our members there, and we had success. In Arizona, our members sent 14,000 messages over and over a 4-month span to their state legislators to get comprehensive election integrity not only passed, but signed into law. In Kentucky, a comprehensive bill was being proposed on a very crowded legislative agenda. And the Secretary of State, Michael Adams, asked AMAC members to call the Senate, the Kentucky State Senate, and tell them to put his bill that he worked on onto the legislative agenda, because it was in danger of not being included because it's a short session and they had a packed agenda. We were successful. AMAC members in Kentucky flooded the state Senate with calls. The bill was put on the legislative agenda. It passed and was signed into law. We have stories like this in Pennsylvania. We met with the chairman of the state. I'm drawing on. We've done so much with so many different state legislators that sometimes my mind's moving faster than my mouth. We moved with the author of a bill, a comprehensive election integrity bill, that we were able to get passed in both the state House and the state Senate. We were anticipating the bill to be vetoed, and it was by the Democratic governor there. But we had a huge role in getting the bill passed by both houses. They're not done with that bill there. So I don't want people, watching this podcast that may have participated in one of our calls to action think that their action was for naught. It wasn't. Their participation. What happens is when legislators on a state or a federal level hear from their constituents, it gives them confidence and courage to do the right thing. Okay.
It sure does. Yeah. It makes a huge impact, Andy.
Without doubt. And to the point where we're hearing back from these state legislators complimenting AMAC members, calling them patriots, describing AMAC Action and AMAC overall as an organization that did not sit on the sidelines and could have waited to see what was going to happen with regard to election integrity. We took action. We held over 22 calls to action throughout the country and in specific states. In West Virginia, we wanted to remind Senator Joe Manchin, and in Arizona, we wanted to remind Senator Kyrsten Sinema that they stood up for the filibuster. So we did separate campaigns in those states, congratulating Senator Manchin and Senator Sinema for sticking up for the filibuster. And to this day, they haven't wavered. That's hugely important. Now, they both voted for the People Act, but we suspect that the fact that they supported keeping the filibuster in place gave them cover to make those votes. We weren't happy with the votes, but we were extremely happy with the fact that they stood up and have not wavered to this day on getting rid of the filibuster. AMAC members played a huge role. They wrote letters to the editor that were published in Arizona and West Virginia, stating their support for the filibuster, congratulating their senators for their support for the filibuster, and voicing their opposition to the For the People Act. We were extremely busy in states like Florida, states like Michigan, on election integrity issues. And our members specifically told us the beginning of this year, they wanted us to address this issue. They wanted their elections secured. In Texas, over a holiday weekend, it was Memorial Day weekend, the legislature there was going to take up Senate Bill 7, which is now Senate Bill 1. This is their comprehensive election reform bill. And we wanted to get it out of committee and to the floor for a vote. Within 24 hours, we had thousands of AMAC members emailing over a holiday weekend. So we did this when people were checking their email over a Memorial Day weekend. They took action. They got the bill out of committee. It was set to go for a floor vote, and the House Democrats walked out. And they're still, the House Democrats in Texas walked out. They're still missing in action. That's another issue that we're dealing with. But the point that I'm making here is that AMAC members, yes, we had a lot of success. Okay, we got bills passed in Kentucky, got bills passed in other states, in Arizona in particular, but our members were the ones who carried this over the finish line. Our members are the ones who are engaged. Our members are the ones who are motivated and dedicated to this cause. People ask me, I was at a Boy Scout meeting yesterday. My youngest son is getting ready to finish up his Eagle Scout, and he's still—
Congratulations.
Well, thank you. He's not there yet, but we're going to pull him over the finish line. He's going to follow in his brother's footsteps if I can give him. I'm a very proud papa here. But I was talking to a gentleman who served over 20 years in the Air Force, and we're talking about. He knows that I'm with AMAC Action, and he's a fellow conservative. And he said, I don't know how you can do what you do every single day. You're in this. He's telling me how he has to walk away from the news because he's overwhelming what the left is trying to do to this country. And I told him that it's an honor and a privilege to do this work, and I say that sincerely. We draw our strength and we draw our courage from our membership when we work hand in hand with these members that are so passionate about what they believe in. Their love of God, their love of country inspires us to continue to work with them and to tackle issues like critical race theory. That's another. You mentioned a poll, Rebecca. I remember that poll. It wasn't even close. Our members wanted us to take on critical race theory. And it's a hot topic. It takes a lot of courage to do that. But our members are the ones that are supplying us with that courage. And we've even had a victory with regard to that in Arizona.
I want to mention one thing before you jump into critical race theory, because I'm just so in awe, really, of the work that you and because of our members and because of the people listening to this podcast, because of you, even if you never left your home, but you were able to communicate with the elected representatives that mattered in this case of election integrity. I want to applaud you. I want to thank you. And I want to tell people, if you're not a member, it's so easy to get involved. You see, when we go to Washington, we have real individual American people that are standing with us. And we never sell or give out your information, if that's for sure. But what we do is we tell them that you exist, that there are over 2.4 million Americans that stand with us on these issues. And we know that we can count on you to mobilize. And we know that we can count on you to inform friends, family, neighbors of what's happening in this country, this great country. And, Andy, I just want to mention, just to put a big exclamation point, the work that we did with our AMAC members in Kentucky, Arizona, Texas, Florida, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Alaska were truly remarkable. And it could not have happened without our AMAC members. You and I can do a lot of work, but it makes a huge impact when we have a huge membership standing behind us. Imagine, Andy, what we can do with 5 million members. I mean, they get a little bit nervous when we come in and we say, listen, we've got 2 million Americans that are against your bill, right? And this is when we're talking to people on the left. Imagine how they could respond when we say we have 10 million Americans. That's what we're up against, right? We're up against the other organization that's lobbying for leftist causes. They're going further and further to the left. So we need more members, and today more than ever. On the election integrity side, this deceptively named For the People's Act, that was deceptive, was never for the people. It was for the politicians. It was for their power and for their control. Our members saw through the BS. They understood that just the name of the bill was a sham and a lie, let alone what was inside that bill. And I do agree, Andy, these efforts, and you've been in the lead, these efforts have truly, I think, helped prevent the passage of S1, which was the companion bill to HR1 in the Senate. So I want to applaud everybody. So now you're saying on the critical race theory front, yes, you're right. Our members, they did. I was surprised. I thought our members might say, we're older, we're 65, we're collecting Social Security. Work on that. Work on my Medicare. Mm-hmm. Interesting how they came out in such opposition of critical race theory and really ask for us to focus on this. So please take us away. What are we doing in that area? How can people learn more?
Well, again, Rebecca, this was an issue that our members want us to tackle. And it's not as if we're sitting around, waiting to do something, because we're all extremely busy. But first and foremost, we act on behalf of our members, and they direct us. And the poll that you mentioned was overwhelmingly in support of tackling critical race theory. So what do? Again, this is going to be a two-pronged approach. It's going to be a battle that's fought at the federal level, as well as the state level. And we had success in Arizona, as I was talking about before. One of the bills that AMAC members in Arizona advocated for was a bill that would prevent the CRT training for public employees. And what's important about this is that public employee can be defined as somebody who works at a public university. So not only were AMAC members lighting up the phone lines and lighting up the email lines, telling their legislators in Arizona to pass this bill that would prevent CRT training for public employees, it did pass and it was signed into law. So we're going to be looking at different states that have this kind of legislation. We're going to be directing our advocates to attend local school board meetings. We're going to have an open line of communication. It's pretty open right now. AMAC members, as you well know, there's no shortage of opinions with regard to AMAC members. They were all on the same page with critical race theory. We're going to be working very closely with them. They're going to be providing us information, and we're going to be letting AMAC members know of school board meetings in their area that are considering critical race theory. We're putting the finishing touches on a guidebook. It's not done yet, but it's coming very close that we're going to be posting on the website that will direct people. It's kind of a what is critical race theory and what can I do about it guide. There's a lot of those popping up too with other organizations. So there's no shortage of information for us to draw from to put together a nice comprehensive guide. We've also supported legislation on several occasions thus far this year that prevents critical race theory from being taught in schools. You may see some funding withdrawn if these bills pass. Some funding withdrawn from K through 12 schools that promote this curriculum, as well as getting it out of the federal government for training employees or contractors of the federal government. So we're working with, we've seen legislation from Tom Cotton, we've seen legislation from Senator Cotton in Arkansas, from other legislators as well. So we're keeping a keen eye out for legislation on the federal level, as well as legislation on the state level. And keep in mind, we're relying heavily on our members. Our members deserve, we talk about giving the glory to God, for the next breath that we take. Well, we're going to give the recognition that is so due to our membership for helping us in a very busy 6 months of this year achieve the success that we've had and maintain it, because this fight is far from over. Election integrity is not over. You're looking at the John Lewis Voting Rights Act that's going to be that'll be introduced sometime in the fall. That is even worse than the For the People Act. So we're keeping an eye out for different components of the For the People Act to be broken up and placed in reconciliation bills or other legislation. So it's we're on our toes constantly. Everybody likes pulling this load, but if it weren't for the AMAC membership, Rebecca, we wouldn't be having this conversation that we're having today.
Yeah, it really is just remarkable, Andy. If you could turn a little bit to healthcare, I know that our members, we want to make sure, certainly you and I have talked about this for years, price transparency. A lot of people don't know what they're getting. They're paying a big premium, but they don't really know what they're getting and how that money is being spent. And they're maybe paying a lot more for drugs than they need to. And that has been such something near and dear to your heart, is to really help individual Americans lower their cost of healthcare, and be able to get at the medications that their life really depends on. So what are we doing there on healthcare? Just a highlight.
Sure.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Happy to elaborate, Rebecca. We did do a call to action during the first 6 months of this year with regard to hospital price transparency. CMS, I should preface this by saying that Joe Biden CMS, which is the Centers for Medicaid, for Medicare and Medicaid Services, were considering a rule change that would disallow hospitals or not require them to report their median Medicare Advantage rate. So this would allow hospitals to revert back to a previous manner of reporting inaccurate and inflated price estimates. This would prevent patients, and then we're talking Medicare here. So we're talking about Medicare beneficiaries. We're talking about people on fixed incomes, people living on retirement incomes. It would prevent patients from accessing important pricing information that would assist them in making better decisions or more informed decisions about their health care. We had a call to action where AMAC members accounted for a solid 1/3 of all the messages left on that website, on the CMS regulatory website, compelling them to keep the accurate reporting in place. It is a price transparency issue. We need all the information, all the accurate information that we can get so we can make better informed decisions with regard to our health care. AMAC members responded, and AMAC members responded in overwhelming numbers. And keep in mind that we're coming after our membership with campaign after campaign. Sometimes we focus on a certain state. Sometimes we focus on the membership at large. But the membership at large has responded. And this was a membership at large campaign where I think over 9,300 emails were sent, messages were sent to the CMS website telling them, not asking them, telling them to keep this requirement in place as is. And their messages were heard.
That's fabulous. There is so much more that we've done that you can all find it all in our annual report. Great job putting that together, semi-annual report rather. A lot more work to do. I just want to remind people that, AMAC is for all of those issues. We're also a pro-life issue. We believe strongly in the sanctity of human life. That's another major issue where AMAC certainly is behind and looking to work with other organizations from natural birth to natural death, or from conception to natural death. On Social Security, AMAC is a firm believer in what Ronald Reagan called the Social Security or the social safety net. We believe that there needs to be a way of assuring those with the least amount of money, the lowest income earners, are cared for in a free, compassionate society. And so we're going to work to make sure that Social Security solvency is there. We want to hold government accountable and make sure that they're not spending your money that you've saved. Medicare for all, we will oppose Medicare for all, because we know that that there are a lot of we could write papers on this, Andy, but we know that quality care for older Americans is defeated with a false promise of free socialist medicine. I think that's the way to put it, best way to put it, because once you begin to give free health care to all people, it definitely will undermine, I think, our innovation. It will make it harder for doctors to go into practice, for hospitals to pay their overhead. And we'll be doing a lot more to that end to make sure that our healthcare in America is affordable and accessible. We're going to fight for your Second Amendment. Second Amendment right assures the right of individuals to keep and bear arms. And we really understand that this freedom is so important. It's vital. I think without a Second Amendment, the rest of our Bill of Rights sort of become undefendable against big government. So the Second Amendment is very, very important that we work to protect your right to keep and bear arms. AMAC is for crime. We are law and order and against crime and for police. We strongly support America's law enforcement community at every level of government, and we will continue to work to ensure that the spread of property crimes, personal crimes, it's spreading across all sectors, all areas, whether you're a business, whether you're in the suburbs, whether you're in rural heartland America, you're seeing crime soar across America. And we think that this crime surge is directly tied to Democrat-led cities, Democrat-led states. And so we are keeping a very close eye. We want to make sure that Americans and future generations can live in a safe America. So all of these issues, Andy, I know that we don't have time to go through the entire report verbatim. I'm going to encourage people to go there. I want to turn to you for sort of, I know we have a minute or two left. Would you please let people know how to get involved? How does one, if you become a member for only $16 a year, and you're actually subscribing to a magazine, for those of you that are hearing this for the first time, the AMAC membership comes with a $16 subscription to the AMAC magazine. And so the magazine, this was from last year, one of our issues, AMAC members voted Donald Trump Man of the Year in 2020. We're keeping a close eye at elections, the 2022 elections. There's so much we're doing. How do people get involved, Andy?
Well, if people want to get involved, AMAC Action Advocacy is a benefit of membership. And as you mentioned before, it's only $16. $16 gives you access to a huge menu, a robust menu of member benefits, including advocacy. And once you're an AMAC member, you can become an AMAC delegate. You become a chapter leader. You can go to amacaction.org to learn about those volunteer positions. These are our grassroots feet on the street. AMAC delegates will call on a member of Commerce locally as a constituent to articulate our mission and our stance on issues. AMAC chapter leaders get together with other AMAC members in the area, their fellow AMAC members in the area, to enjoy fellowship, to learn about issues, to bring in local speakers. We have a very comprehensive advocacy program that will hold you by the hand and get you started in those positions. And it's all the benefit of AMAC membership. And it's only $16 a year.
Thank you, Andy. Go to amacaction.org. There's a short form that you fill out. We do like to get to know who you are. We want to know a little bit about how you think you might be able to help us, but it's very, very easy. And Andy, I love what you've created, these really great sort of, I want to call it, it's like a meeting in a box in a sense, right? If an AMAC delegate or chapter leader wants to get together with someone, describe what that is a little bit. People can understand how easy it is. Thank you.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Well, when you become an AMAC chapter leader, we don't leave you on your own. We have a whole resource section that allows you to choose specific topics that help you plan your meetings, including meeting in a box. There are PowerPoint presentations, there's other materials. So, we ask our AMAC chapters to meet on a monthly basis, but we don't expect you to come up with a topic every single time for the meeting. We have resources where you can choose your topics, and we'll help you plan the meetings. We market to AMAC members in your area to boost attendance. In addition, and once you get your feet wet, people, becoming an AMAC Action advocate kind of gets in your blood. And all of a sudden, we've got our advocates calling their local state senator, their state representative, their member of Congress to come in and speak to AMAC members. Some people bring in school board folks, but there's also a resource here that we have to give people the overview of issues that we're involved in, that our members tell us to be involved in. And those materials make for great AMAC Action chapter meetings as well. Everything you need is on that resource center. And we have a full staff in our advocacy office in Central Florida that will assist you in planning these meetings and helping you execute them.
Andy, that was a brilliant idea. I want to thank you for executing. You're helping people, helping to preserve our great American values. And I want to really wrap up with this. I want to read to you the mission statement, Andy. AMAC Action serves to confront the myriad challenges to the United States Constitution, freedom, liberty, and the free market. Along with our advocates, we will advance AMAC Action's influence in Washington, D.C., and in congressional districts across the country, while acting as a recognized and valued resource for our members, Congress, state leaders, and seniors throughout America. amacaction.org, folks, it's a great resource. We are your advocacy group. People, 10 years ago, when they were frustrated with Obamacare, for example, people had nowhere to go. And so you saw a lot of small groups form, pop up across the U.S., the Tea Parties being one of them. Today, there is a place for you to go. There is an organization that is looking out for the individual American. That is AMAC. So join AMAC at amac.us. And folks, if you haven't downloaded our AMAC news app, please do so. We are growing in news, and we are bringing to you the kind of news stories that you will not find anywhere else. Simply go to your app store on your mobile phone and download AMAC news app to get news on the go wherever you are. And please don't forget to like and share and follow this podcast wherever you go, wherever you are. It's great. You can get at us very easily through the app, through our website, or on any of the podcast app stores. So thank you all for tuning in today. My name is Rebecca Weber. This is your AMAC podcast, Better for America, and we look forward to having you back with us again next time. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you for listening to the Better for America podcast. To learn more about AMAC and all it has to offer, visit us at www.amac.us.